it builds up just a tremendous amount of heat as that oil gets squirted on the bottom of the pistons and just has nowhere to dissipate. I may be wrong, and if I am, Dwayne probably won't put my theory in the video. We've done our testing without the oil filter relocation and without the oil cooler. We did 3 different runs, 30 minutes at 70 miles an hour, 30 minutes at 55 miles an hour, and 15 minutes of stop and go traffic. I'm going to go do those exact same runs now that we've installed the oil filter relocation and the oil cooler, and record those temps so we have an apples to apples comparison. The first 3 runs were done at 88, 89 degrees ambient temperature. And right now it's 88, 89 degrees ambient temperature, and so we're going to do those same 3 runs, record the temperatures, and see what the difference is. We're in the middle of doing our heat testing for the addition of the oil filter relocation and the oil cooler. A few things I want to mention that are really important when we're doing the heat testing is you want to keep everything as much the same as possible. So we want to have the same ambient temperature, we want to have the same gas, we want to have the same wind conditions. Obviously you have to go the same route. Got another 10 minutes or so of this 30 minutes at 70 miles an hour. We'll get the temperature and we'll have the comparison there on what the oil temp drop is. Now we know what it is on several of the bikes. We've done this exact same test, but this is the first time we've done the test of the oil filter relocation and the oil cooler, or the dual cool kit, on an M8, water-cooled M8. And this is a 114, so it should be pretty interesting. I don't know if it's going to drop the oil temperatures more or less than it does on the twin cams, but we're going to find out. Alright, we've already finished our 70 mile an hour test for 30 minutes, and we're now starting our 15-minute of stop and go test at this red light. I'm going to come up to another stop sign and another stop sign and another stop sign, and we're going to go around in a circle, and then we'll look and see what the temperature is. So all this stop and go can really get the temperature up. A lot of people think that the stop and go, that the engine runs hotter than running 70 mile an hour down the road, and it doesn't necessarily. It depends on how long you're in the stop and go. 70 mile an hour running down the road is a lot of work going on in that engine, and generally it will generate more heat than stop and go, because in the stop and go, even though you're not getting a lot of wind, you're also not creating a lot of heat from the engine working so hard. As you can see, we never get up to any real speed. So the benefit of the oil cooler and oil filter relocation is not going to be very much from having air pass over it, because there's not a whole lot of air passing over either one of them. But that oil filter is now not jammed up against the engine, having them feed each other's heat, so it's being able to radiate a lot of heat out. And the same thing, there is no oil cooler on the Wethead Milwaukee 8s. And so by adding an oil cooler and just having that oil flow through that cooler, which is really a type of a radiator with all those fins, really gives a chance for heat to shed off of that oil as it's going through that oil cooler. So we're about ready to find out what the temperature is. So we're heading back to home base, and that's the end of this video until Dwayne puts the numbers together and does a comparison chart and sees what it is. I have a feeling that the Wethead M8, whether with the 107 or the 114, is going to benefit a lot from the oil cooler oil filter relocation, for the simple reason that it builds up just a tremendous amount of heat as that oil gets squirted on the bottom of the pistons and just has nowhere to dissipate. I may be wrong, and if I am, Dwayne probably won't put my theory in the video, but my theory is that it will, because we saw when we were doing our other testing that the oil got much hotter it surprised us how hot the oil got, but there's just nowhere for the oil to shed the heat. There's no oil running through the cylinders where all the fins are. There's very little oil just trickling really through the rocker boxes and the heads. And of course there's no fins on the rocker boxes. There's very few fins actually on the heads. The majority, I'm just going to get past this truck, the majority of the fins are on the cylinders. And so where's it going to shed the heat? Just through the flat metal of the cases. And that's just not an efficient way for the oil to shed heat. So by getting that oil filter out in the wind, unblocking the front of the engine, by getting the oil cooler with a place for the oil to run through and get rid of some of that heat, my guesstimation is that we're going to see a bigger difference between this and say either the twin cam Wethead or the twin cam air cooled, and certainly a difference between this and the M8 that's not a Wethead, because the M8s that aren't Wetheads already have a pretty good size oil cooler on them, so they have a way to shed the heat. Alrighty, that's it. I'm going to ride into the sunset here, give Dwayne all the numbers tomorrow, and we'll see what we see. Hey folks, if you liked this video or you found it useful, please give us a thumbs up. If you didn't like it, well, give us a thumbs down. Please hit the subscribe button. We'd really appreciate it. It helps us out a lot. And if you'd like to see each new video as it comes out, hit the notification bell and you'll get notified each time we put out a new video. Also, if you could leave us a comment below telling us what you like, telling us your suggestions or thoughts for new videos, we'd appreciate it.